There's a lot of talk about the economy these days. Some people say the economy's taking off. Some people say it's tanking. If you really want to make sense of the economy, it's useful to take a big step back and ask yourself, what does economy really mean? At the heart is this tiny little word, eco, and eco means home. Ecosystem is all of the complex relationships of home. It's all the living things, it's all the people. An ecosystem isn't just the catalog of all those things, it's really the relationships. Ecology is the knowledge or study of home. It is the prolonged and thoughtful observation of the living world around you and the consequences of your actions in it. And then you get economy. Economy is simply the management of home. So there are three basic pillars that are true for all economies. You need resources. You need land, air, water. You need the living world around you. The second pillar is you need work. You need labor to combine with those resources to produce stuff. And then you need a culture, a cosmology, a worldview that tells us what we can do with our labor towards what ends with the world around us. Then what are the pillars of the dominant economy, the economy that's all around us right now? Well, we get our resources through extraction. We forcefully remove them from the earth. We call this the extractive economy because it's extracting labor as well. We don't view labor as its own valuable natural resource to be applied towards the well-being of ourselves and our communities. And the culture, the worldview, is one in which we can have endless and infinite growth that either ignores or denies the real ecological and social consequences. And the rules that govern this economy, with the use of speculation and financial instruments, are towards one very particular end: the accumulation of greater and greater monetary wealth and power.
The big corporations are being governed really for the benefit of their CEOs. It's not even for the shareholders anymore. Certainly not for the workers, certainly not for the communities.
The same way that the basis of modern production is extraction from the planet, modern finance is extraction from the larger community towards the financial community, towards 1%.
The system rewards certain people's effort far more than others.
This is not only an economic issue about who's getting the money, it's also a racial issue, it's also a class issue.
Capitalism has exploited people and often leaves out people of color, immigrants, minority communities, women.
At some point, people are like, no, you cannot do that to me and to my community in my home. And therefore, the only way to keep it going is to use force. It's a banks and tanks economy. So the question is, if the extractive economy is what got us into the mess we're in right now, can it get us out? Not likely.
What is required is fundamentally to transform the way things are structured.
The depth to which corporations are integrated into economies around the world mean that we absolutely have to think at the global level, at the international level.
We want to make sure that our productive systems are sustainable. We can't hope that a concentrated power on top just starts acting better. The way that we've been shown that can actually make sustainability in the long term is by breaking that power and by sharing that power democratically.
We need to explore new ways of managing home based on that thoughtful and prolonged observation of the living world around us. Ecology.
The new economy has to step away and then push back at those old pillars, because it has to be a new economy that is about sustainable resources, that puts people before profit, that puts planet before profit.
The first pillar is to rethink our relationship to resources.
There's simply no way that we can have this endless, limitless, infinite growth on what is, I think, obviously a finite planet.
The second pillar has to replace the exploitation of human labor with a recognition that all wealth comes through work. And when we take our labor and apply it towards economic well-being, we can create a new cycle that's not based on extraction, but that's based on regeneration. That requires a new third pillar, a new way of imagining our relationship to each other and to home. It's not only possible, it's happening all around us.
One of the most inspiring things is that there are people and groups all over the country and the world who are organizing both to meet people's needs and to actually confront the systems that are underneath the crises.
Underlying all of it is the small d democracy.
I think it could actually change the way things are going to have people actually participating in the decisions that are governing their lives.
Any economic transition has to have this notion of restructuring the way we think about ownership.
Resources are owned by people, by communities. They are not owned by a corporation. The privatization of resources will have to end.
That demands some political muscle, some organizing muscle, and some idea muscle.
How do we develop new business models that create more local ownership and more democratic ownership?
Not just bringing food into communities, but who owns the stores? Who's processing the food? Who's selling the food to the hospitals and the schools in the communities?
We believe that the more people that have access to opportunities to be able to thrive, the better our society will be as a whole.
The most basic thing we're talking about is human consciousness, and not in the sense of self-awareness, in the sense of how we behave, how we think, how we understand the world we're in, and how we form relationships. And the extent that we start transforming those understandings and those relationships, that's part of forming the new economy today, here and now.
By looking at how we live, we can find how we can live better, more interconnected lives, and simultaneously invest in and build the economy we know we need, and maybe even be happier for it.